Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story, a $10 trillion price tag for a war over Taiwan. That's how much it could cost the global economy, according to a Bloomberg simulation. What's behind this eye-opening projection? An emergency alert ripping through Taiwan. See how the island responds to China launching a satellite 5 days before Taiwan's presidential election. A U.S. Navy sailor sentenced to 27 months behind bars. Find out how the service member got wrapped up in a CCP spying scheme. And a concerning development in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Reports say Chinese weapons are making their way into the hands of terrorists in Gaza. How much will it cost the global economy if the Chinese regime wages war on Taiwan? A Bloomberg report puts the estimate at $10 trillion. The $10 trillion calculation is based on two modeled scenarios. One, the U.S. gets caught up in the war. Two, Beijing blockades Taiwan to cut it off from global trade. In either case, trade would plunge. The semiconductor supply chain would take a hit, shipping lanes would get disrupted, and the U.S. could slap sanctions and tariffs on China. The world's two largest economies, the U.S. and China, would both take blows to GDP. For America, Bloomberg estimates an over 6% drop. For Taiwan, a whopping 40%.
A direct conflict or even indirect conflict between China and the United States would be detrimental for the entire globe economically.
This estimate comes at a special time. Taiwan is set to elect a new president and parliament in just 5 days. And the vote will decide how the island handles its relationship with the Chinese Communist Party. Any conflict between China and Taiwan could cost America dearly. Mike Gallagher, chairman of the House Select Committee on China, highlighted a war game simulation last year. Here's what could happen to the U.S. if a war broke out.
Equity markets would drop precipitously as global shipping lanes close. Shipping insurance premiums would skyrocket, supply chains would break down, and the specter of global conflict would grow, causing further chaos in the global financial system. Americans would likely see their pensions shrink, their bank accounts hemorrhage cash.
The committee also asked the Federal Reserve to stress test U.S. banks to see whether they could endure the cost of suddenly losing the Chinese market. Americans had invested over $1 trillion in Chinese stocks and bonds as of 2020. Taiwan is also important for America in terms of microchips. What's more, the island sits next to a major shipping lane, and almost half of the global shipping containers pass through the route. An emergency alert ripping through Taiwan Tuesday. China launching a satellite over Taiwan's airspace 5 days before the island's all-important presidential election. The alert disrupted a press conference held by Taiwan's foreign minister.
The PRC has fired a satellite.
Beijing has been ramping up pressure on Taiwan. 2 weeks before the election, Chinese leader Xi Jinping vowed to reunify the island with mainland China. Beijing uses terms like sovereignty and reunify to describe its view of Taiwan. Xi made the remark while commemorating the birth of Mao Zedong. Mao established today's communist China in 1949. His army expelled China's then ruling power, which fled to today's Taiwan. Back to the emergency alert, Foreign Minister Joseph Wu said it's part of Beijing's gray zone tactics.
To remind the Taiwanese people that the threat is there, I think this is something that we have been coping with for a long time. And I think for the Taiwanese government, our military stands ready to deal with any kind of emergency.
Wu called on the Taiwanese people to remain calm and vote for their preferred candidates as planned. The frontrunner in Taiwan's upcoming election giving his stance on cross-strait relations, candidate William Lai saying on Tuesday that he would keep Taiwan's status quo if he gets elected. He added he's also open to engaging with Beijing, suggesting that dialogue can lower risks.
Accepting Beijing's one China principle is not true peace. Without legitimate sovereignty, it's a false peace, just like in Hong Kong. Therefore, our stance is to establish the power of rules.
The communist regime sees Taiwan as part of China. That's despite never having ruled the island. Beijing has also vowed to take the island under control by force if necessary. Now all eyes are on the upcoming vote. It's set to decide how Taiwan handles future relations with China. What are the candidates' stances on relations with Beijing? Here's a breakdown. Leading the race is Taiwan's current Vice President, William Lai. He represents the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. Throughout his career, Lai has been known for his staunch defense of the island's sovereignty, despite repeated pressure from the communist regime. The next candidate in line is Hou You-yi, mayor of New Taipei City and a former police chief. He opposes Taiwan's independence and has avoided speaking out about China. Trailing behind him is Ko Wen-je, the former mayor of Taipei. He said that he believes Beijing remains a problem, and that problem needs to be taken care of without sparking conflicts. A guilty plea is ending in an over 2-year prison sentence and a fine for a member of the U.S. Navy. The service member was convicted last year for taking a bribery scheme from China, handing over sensitive U.S. military intel to a Chinese military officer.
Petty Officer Wenheng Zhao, also known as Thomas Zhao, faces 27 months behind bars for the crime. He's also been ordered to pay a $5,500 fine. Zhao had worked at a naval base in Ventura County, California, and held security clearance there. To carry out the scheme, he entered restricted military and naval installations to collect information for China. He sent over the information on the Navy's operational security, military trainings, and critical infrastructure. He also communicated plans for a major drill in the Pacific, plus orders, diagrams, and blueprints for a ground-to-air radar system in Okinawa, Japan. All that in exchange for around $15,000 across at least 14 different payments. The FBI and NCIS investigation found Zhao acted between August 2021 and at least May 2023.
A grim outlook for the world's second-largest economy. China's stocks appear to be struggling, a key signal that its emerging market equity has declined to a record low. A top investment firm index shows Chinese stocks is on a free fall. Based on data from Morgan Stanley Capital International, or MSCI, China's stocks have wiped out nearly $4 trillion worth of wealth in the last 3 years. China was among the worst performing investment markets last year, and the trend doesn't appear to be slowing. Global investors have been dumping their Chinese stocks to avoid greater losses. According to MSCI, China's stock market hit its lowest point on the last day of 2023. The BRICS coalition is doubling its size to kick off 2024, and China is pushing the growth. Who are the organization's new members? And what does a larger BRICS mean for the West? Plus, troubles brewing in China's economy, with its shares in a key emerging market index hitting a record low. What's in store for China in the new year? Joining us to discuss is Anders Corr, publisher of the Journal of Political Risk and principal of Core Analytics. Anders Corr, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
Anders, the BRICS coalition just got a bunch of new members joining in with Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates. They joined on January 1st this year. Now, Argentina was invited to join, but they rejected it under the new president, Javier Milei. What does this mean for the U.S., especially in terms of the U.S. dollar being the reserve and global currency?
BRICS is trying to promote de-dollarization of the global economy, and that a big part of that will be what's considered the petrodollar, because a lot of oil and gas contracts are denominated in dollars. So, what BRICS is trying to do, and the fact that Saudi Arabia has joined makes it troubling, is get rid of the dollar as the international trade medium and switch to probably, what they say is a BRICS currency. But I think that the only really major economy in BRICS is China. And so if they do de-dollarize, I think most of a BRICS currency, probably 90% of it, it'd probably be weighted like the IMF special drawdown funds or SDRs. Probably similar to that, they will be any kind of BRICS currency would be weighted by the economies of BRICS members. And of course, China is the biggest economy.
So it sounds like in that case, we could be seeing a rise in the renminbi or the yuan. Is that fair?
I don't know that I would go that far. There are so many issues involved in a BRICS currency, the yuan. The yuan's value, I think there are multiple issues that may militate against it. For example, China's economy is doing so badly right now. There's a push to increase fiscal spending to support the economy, and there's also a push to decrease interest rates. Both of those things would probably weaken the yuan. Fiscal spending is inflationary. When you decrease the interest rates, people don't want to have your cash because they're getting lower interest rates with it. So they sell your cash and it forces the currency value down.
Now, speaking of China's economy, I want to look at the signals coming out of it. There's one where China's share of a key emerging market equity benchmark has dropped to a record low. What does this mean in terms of China's economy in the future, especially this year?
Overall, China's economy, I think, is doing horribly. I think that this trend of decoupling and de-risking from China, it will probably continue. China seems, under Xi Jinping, seems very certain of its path. And I'm not sure that China and Xi Jinping can really, part of the problem for authoritarians is it's hard for them to reverse themselves. If they've made a mistake, even if they recognize that they made a mistake, they don't have the same kind of public pressure that democracies have that would help them or help the government say, oh, I made a mistake. We're going to elect a new president who doesn't make so many mistakes. Well, you just can't do that in China. China's a dictatorship. Xi Jinping is there to stay, and he doesn't want to admit his mistakes.
Well, Anders Corr, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
The Israel-Hamas war has hit the 3-month mark, and the Hamas terrorist group doesn't appear to be running out of ammunition anytime soon. But where are they getting the weapons? Let's take a look.
Chinese weapons are reportedly making their way into the hands of terrorists in Gaza. An anonymous Israeli intelligence official told The Telegraph that Hamas stockpiles include Chinese rifles and grenade launchers, as well as rifle sights, M16 cartridges, and communications equipment. If that's true, it raises the question of whether weapons are coming directly from the Chinese regime or through a proxy like Iran.
When it comes to weapon supply for Hamas, there could be a couple of channels. One, direct support from the CCP. Two, they might be funneling eliminated weapons through the CCP to other countries, eventually finding their way to Hamas. Both scenarios seem quite possible.
The discoveries appear to threaten the once thriving ties between Israel and China, a relationship that's already cooled since the October 7th Hamas attacks. Beijing has refrained from condemning the Hamas terrorist group and shown reluctance to support Israel's right to defend itself.
On Monday, South Korea accused its northern neighbor of supplying weapons to Hamas. Seoul released a photo showing a North Korean grenade. The weapon is believed to be used by Hamas fighters. Last Saturday, Ukraine also said it found evidence of North Korean missiles in a recent Russia attack. Next, we'd like to take a moment to share some of your comments about yesterday's show. Davil posed a question that if China is such a wealthy superpower, why do Chinese people keep fleeing the country toward the U.S. or other nations? Davil went on to say they've, quote, never heard of an American fleeing to China. Don't forget to tell us what you think of today's show. Thanks for watching. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for more than 2 years. If you'd like to support us, consider donating. Find us at donorbox.org/China-in-focus or subscribe to our partner platform, Epic TV, where you can watch our full episodes. Here's what to look out for in our second half. A China-backed firm has a new technique for tracking Apple users, and it involves the tech giant's wireless transfer feature called AirDrop. More advanced electronics may be on the horizon. A joint research team just unveiled the world's first functional graphene chip. A closer look at what it could mean for the semiconductor industry and its major players. And Shenyang Performing Arts wraps up its visit to San Francisco, with theatergoers calling it the message very powerful. More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you tomorrow.